Okay, cover your ears. Special meeting, Oceanside City Council, and all these other boards that we exist. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance first. Clerk Zach Beck will lead us.
Please join, bring your right hand over your heart. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thank you. Thank you. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Here.
Councilmember Feller.
Here.
Councilmember Kern.
Here. Well, okay, we have a quorum. This is a public hearing item, and a consent item. We have a consent item.
Move approval of the consent item.
Move approval.
Do we have a second?
Okay. All right.
Okay, please
No
vote.
public on that item.
Thank you.
Motion approved, 3-0. Item number 2 is introduction of an ordinance establishing by-district elections for city council offices and approving an election calendar for the newly created council districts.
It's a public hearing. And disclosures.
I really haven't heard much in the last couple of weeks, but I think we're all aware that I still don't support this, so ahead of time.
Oh, we don't have enough votes.
Are you disclosing? You're looking at me like I should be
Public
talking.
staff and public and staff.
Yeah, this is probably about the 4th or 5th public hearing we've had on this, and we had plenty of public input, emails, phone calls, and personal contacts.
And all material has been provided to the council.
Wait a minute. Perfect. That's fine. Yeah, never mind. Keep going on up here since we are missing 2 council members.
Family emergency or something?
You ready for me?
City Clerk.
Yes, all material has been provided to the council.
Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Deputy Mayor and members of the City Council, tonight is yet another step towards the creation of the council districts, which once adopted will be phased in, beginning with the election in November of 2018. As you know, the election code requires the City Council to conduct 4 total public hearings on this item. 2 of them are to be conducted before the maps are drawn and 2 after. This is the 4th and final public hearing before the City Council. This is also the 2nd hearing since the draft maps have been released on the city's website. That was done on June 5th. So the City Council has directed significant public input beyond what is required by the Elections Code. Council approved a resolution on May 3rd requiring 5 additional community meetings. Those are in addition to the 4 public hearings in order to elicit testimony from the public. The city has hired Q2 Data and Research as its demographer, and Karen McDonald and Jamie Clark, who are here tonight, have led all of the 5 community outreach meetings along with the city clerk. At these meetings, members of the public have provided extensive testimony about their opinions about the districts, and in particular about identifying their communities of interest. Based on that public feedback, during the last 90 days, Q2 developed 3 proposed maps for council consideration. On June 21st of this year, the City Council voted 4-0 to direct staff to bring forward the Community of Interest map for adoption. The Community of Interest map is included as attachment 3 to the staff report. It's shown on the in the back on the easels, and we'll get that up right now on the overhead. Districts 1 and 2 are proposed to be up for election in November of 2018. Districts 3 and 4 would be up in November of 2020. Once implemented, candidates running for election to the City Council must live in and be a registered voter in the district in which he or she seeks election at the time nomination papers are issued. Now, as indicated in the staff report, existing council members have been elected on an at-large basis, and you will continue to serve the remainder of these terms. If there's a vacancy in the office of any council member that's been elected on an at-large basis, then the replacement could be appointed on an at-large basis before the council districts are implemented in 2018 and 2020. But thereafter, one must be a resident registered voter of the district. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have at this time. Would you like to go to the public?
No comments. Anything from the public?
Yes, we have 2 members of the public wishing to speak on this item, and any other members who haven't turned in forms can speak as well. First, we have Cindy Rocco and Jimmy Knott.
This one?
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, why don't you go to the other one since
Okay.
Jamie's so close?
Oh, okay. I'm first here for a few reasons, but one is to again formally protest the districts because my representation on the council and its policy direction is on hold for 3.5 years. If people want to get representation, then get registered and vote. If you want ethnic representation, then get people to run. Don't close the door on my right to vote, my right to run for office, my right to influence policy, to open a door for you that has been open the entire time. I'd like to bring up notes about the processes related to having improper tools and insufficient data and the misuse of power by elected officials to influence outcomes. First, it took a few weeks to get the website to actually become interactive. The Google map was rudimentary and useless without population data. There was insufficient information because of data. You needed to use population data in order to draw a sufficient map. Ours only had small, tiny census blocks that had to go be manually counted, versus our Carlsbad and our school district actually provided the large block census block volumes, making it a lot easier. Also, not all the centers of influence, communities of influence, were on the interactive map layers or ones that were from public testimony, such as Henny Hills with Fire Mountain, Fireside, Libby Lake, and Melba Bishop being the COI, and also the school districts were not even on as a layer, and those are all communities of interest. So it made it difficult to interact with the maps as is. Also, distrust because of the political final decision makers and or consultants garnered support to influence outcomes. For example, one map proposed broke up Fireside from the valley, and I was told on a map that I broke up 2 centers of influence of senior population and the RDO, Rancho del Oro. And if you look at the map of the communities of interest that you've actually selected, it does break up those communities of interest as well, the mobile home parks and the senior area of Oceana, and RDO between El Camino Real and I think it's south of Oceanside Boulevard. I also believe that the election schedule is unfair because we truly need, I think that we should do a lottery for this scheduling, because what's happened now is you're going to have 2, hang on one second, just let me get this straight. Right now, a district has 2 council members in there. When one council, let's say Chuck runs in 2018 and wins, and Esther will still be in there, then that district's going to have representation for 3.5 years with 2 reps, and District 4 has no official representation for 3.5 years. So the way it's being done, it is not fully representing at all, even though that is the objective. Thank you for the extra time.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. I first want to start off by thanking the consultants. They had to put up with a lot of, gruff and everything else, and a lot of what I put in as well. And I, basically pointed out a lot of things that Ms. Rocco has said, insufficient data. And as an example of insufficient data, I'll show you just one little piece. That's the crime reports. In the second column there is from South O, just from the beginning of the year to now. The third row is for all of Oceanside. As you can see, 1/4 of all murders have taken place in South O. The public doesn't get that information. Also, all the other crime statistics that you see there, I could go down and tell you percentages. Down the bottom, a lot of that information was also not shared. The percentage of increases in crime. This was taken from the Police and Fire Commission report to them from just this June report. All this information needed to be shared with the public from cumulative results and shown in graphs about that and about which sectors, which beat has gone on. And as an example, beat 4 and beat 9 basically compose South Oceanside. So this is part of the information that has been missing. And it's important information that the public has basically told me, well, we're going to get to this again in 2020. That's only a couple years ahead. I hope and pray that we all take this very seriously and get to it in the in-between times. Because as you can see there in the information, it's a matter of life and death in a lot of the decisions that each and every citizen will be making and who they vote for to represent them and where the funding goes to and where the allocation of that funding goes to in addressing things like crime. I also wanted to take and thank staff. They did a perfect job in some cases, and I also wanted to thank you for making these hard decisions.
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Sanchez.
No disclosure. But before you go, we still have the opportunity for people who haven't turned in forms. Any members of the public who wish to speak on this item who have not submitted a form may speak at this time.
My name is Richard Fox. I live in South Oceanside. I just want to tell everybody that I know it was a really tough process. It had to be done really quickly. And I just want to say that everybody involved did very, very well and did an amazing job. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other members of the public wish to speak on this item? No. All right, no more.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. And in terms of disclosures, that was the question you asked, right?
Yeah.
I believe there were a few emails that came in after our last meeting, and I think I did have a few other discussions in person with other people and maybe on the phone as well.
Great.
So, my disclosures. My question was this. This is a conversation that I began with the city manager before this meeting. When I read the report, it talked about when the by-district elections become effective, and that would be November 2018. So my question is, why isn't it effective 30 days after adoption? If I could ask the city attorney, please.
Well, the ordinance is effective 30 days thereafter. But the question is, when are districts 3 and 4, when are those elections going to take place? So we have staggered city council elections,
Right.
2 one year and 2 the next. So we picked 1 and 2 for 18 and 3 and 4 for 20. So that there'd be 2 in each time period.
Right. So if there was, between the time it becomes effective, which is 30 days after adoption, and November 2018, if there were to be a vacancy, what would you be able to pick from anywhere, or would you have to pick from a district that is perhaps not being covered yet?
So I think I hit on that point as you were coming in, but
Right.
as stated in the staff report, existing council members were elected on an at-large basis and
For 4
served
years.
4-year terms. So if there was a vacancy, the way this is set up, for some reason, if there was a vacancy in that at-large term, then you could appoint on an at-large basis for the balance of that term.
Okay, all right. And I think this kind of leads into the question that was asked by Cindy, which is that it doesn't become effective like by district until, and it's staggered, 2018 and 2020. So the citizens are going to be covered under at large until we get to 2018 and 2020. So we have, 4 council members who will be from specific districts eventually, and 1 mayor. And it takes 3 votes to get anything done in Oceanside, which is sometimes, something of a procedure process. But it definitely doesn't mean that, one person's going to be doing only that in their district and that they can't get involved in the rest of the city, because I think as council members we all always try to find out more information as much as possible to be able to come up with best decisions. So, and it's not perfect. It's not perfect. I think that it's been hit on the head. We had a very short period of time. I think I wanted to hear from more people. That's why I went to 3 out of the 5. I was able to go to 3 out of the 5 to listen to what people were saying. And unfortunately, a lot of people ended up going to the last meeting, and that was kind of a difficult thing to do, is get like a whole process cut into. We couldn't do it. It was, what was it, 4 hours on the last meeting. So hopefully when this comes up in 2021, we'll have possibly a committee, possibly a much longer process, and hopefully it'll be this kind of similar, that we'll have citizens come up with suggestions on the communities of interest. And the communities of interest for the California Voting Rights Act, the primary reason was dilution of a vote of a protected class. So Mr. Knott, in terms of stats, criminal stats, that's not something that really is applicable. But anyway, I'm going to move introduction. Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Introduce the ordinance. Please.
Thank you.
Oh, that just came up. Okay. Thank you.
So
Councilmember Feller.
I'm looking at this map, and right below the 3, there is like a red square. And I look, and that is City of Oceanside.
That is Plaza Camino Real?
Yes, that is correct. Can you tell me why that is red on that? Because there's only a part of that parking lot that's the City of Oceanside.
This area?
Right where the,
Down here.
yeah.
So this is the,
It's very clear on this map here. There is no red on this map. South of Plaza Camino Real.
so
Or I mean south of 78. Okay. It's gonna
this,
blind me like a pilot.
I'm not sure if I understand the question, and this area that is colored in, it's just a layer that shows different landmarks used with Maptitude, and it's not assigned to a different district. It's just showing that that's where that area is. It's just showing that that's where Plaza Camino Real is.
Could I also, if I may provide you also with an explanation? When we're drawing lines, we're using census geography, and there was discrepancy between what the census thought was Oceanside and what you knew was Oceanside. And that was because the current city boundaries, or the accurate city boundaries, had not been submitted to the census, so that they could not, it basically wasn't reflected in the census geography. So when this large map was made, that was what we did, is we snapped the city boundaries, the accurate city boundaries, to our map. And that is why it looks all even. If it doesn't look even on here, it's because we're still using the older census geography, which has been adjusted, and we've submitted the correct city boundaries to the census. The populations for the city of Oceanside are correct, and they're inside, but you may see a little bit of jagged, some areas that don't really look exactly like they're in the city of Oceanside, but they have been allocated.
Well, I think what I'm questioning here is, we got it on this map.
Correct.
Because
that's your guys' geography, and this is the census geography.
Okay,
So the census is a little bit behind on the accurate geography.
Am I blinding anybody? So our property goes right across there.
Yeah.
South Vista Way.
So we got this submitted to the census. So the census now has those boundaries, and they will be reflected in the next census geography update. And the populations, though, that are in the city of Oceanside, they are all accurately reflected.
But the red doesn't mean it's part of
No.
district number.
No, that's just a layer. That's the color in that area was just automatically assigned to that particular plaza by Maptitude, which is the software. Yeah, and it's not in any of the districts right now.
Okay, well, I just was looking at it. I don't want it. I wore my green shirt today because that would be my area, and I don't want any red in my area, please. Actually, I wore the shirt for Karen, so. So I wrote a question. So we could pass this today and still sue Shankman?
Is that a rhetorical question?
No?
Yeah, okay.
I'd love to know.
So this we're in a safe harbor provision right now, so he's prevented from suing us, and once it's adopted, there's no basis to sue us. So in terms of suing him, we don't plan on that unless he submits a bill to us, which we disagree with. So.
Well, I've, as we discussed earlier, I wanted to participate in the districting, but I'm still opposed to losing 3/4 of my voting rights just because this guy's got a paycheck and wants to make some sort of exactly what Cindy Rocco just said about the idea that this is all about making it easier for somebody when it hasn't been easy for any of us to do what we've been doing for me for 30 years, going from event to event. So naturally it's going to be easier for me to be recognized than somebody new coming in. But I don't think we should be making it any easier, so I still don't support this.
I'll go ahead and title this. This is the introduction of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside, California, adding Article 15 to Chapter 2 of the Oceanside City Code, establishing by-district elections for city council offices and approving an election calendar for the newly created council districts.
Please vote.
Motion approved, 3-1. Feller, no. And there is no comment on item number 3.
Okay. So we're ready to adjourn the meeting. We're going to adjourn this meeting to our next special meeting, which is 5 p.m. Tuesday, August 1st, public hearing regarding the adoption of the ordinance creating by-district elections for council members. The notice has been posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall chambers at least 24 hours prior to the meeting, and this adjourns today's meeting. Thank you for attending.